Hi, it's Shay from Shaybella Crafts, and today I'm going to do a bit of an experiment slash demonstration about dyeing wool. And on the right you can see that I've got some gray wool, and on the left you can see I've got some white wool. And inspired by ChemKnits breaking the Delphinium blue, here, let me actually have that right side up. I'm going to go through and try to do that with both of these and see what the color differences are between the white and the gray. And I think it'll be really fun and cool. So this has been soaking for a bit. I'm now going to go through and move this over so that I can prepare the pot with the dye for doing all of the fun dyeing. Okay, so we'll be back in a moment. Okay, so we have removed the wool from the soak that I was doing in the same pot that I'm going to be working in. And I've got the pot up to a boil. And I'm wearing the gloves partly because this stuff is kind of, you know, it's food dye. It's supposed to stain stuff. And I don't want that doing it to my fingers, and partly because it takes really, really hot stuff that's very, very uncomfortable and kind of painful and takes it down to just uncomfortable. So the Wilton's food dye is a gel, and I went through and coated a fork with it. I'm going to stir that in. You can see how the water goes from being very light to being very dark. And my fork's now clean. Put that off to the side. And it's time to add my wool. And you can see that it's still kind of dripping a bit. That's not a big deal. In fact, we'll start with adding in the gray. And I'm just going to drop it all right on in. Grab my little stick to push it down, kind of like if I was going through and washing it again. And yeah. Then I will grab my white and put that on top. Boop. Just drop it all right on in. I probably should try to make it a little bit, what's the word? More even entry, but plop. It's not necessarily the greatest idea to stir because this is unfelted, or yeah, I don't want to felt my wool, but yeah, we'll get there. And I'm just going to let this come back up to a simmer, and once it comes back up to a simmer, then I'm going to add my vinegar. And this is a little bit of the experiment part, because most of the instructions have been saying go through and add your vinegar about the same time that you add your dye, your food coloring. And like on some of the master dyeing tip websites I've seen, they also go through and have a suggestion to hold off on adding in the vinegar until after it's had a few moments to go through and pick up a little bit of color. So we'll see how that ends up going, and I'll come back when, oh no, it's already starting to simmer. Okay, well, we'll come back when we get back to a nice complete simmer, and I'll maybe show you adding in the vinegar. In case I don't, it's a half a cup, 4 ounces, half cup, 8 tablespoons. I love this little measuring cup. It tells me all sorts of interesting facts. Ooh, and what's kind of fun is you can already see that there's a slight difference in the take-up happening, where it's a little bit more pink here, much bluer there. You can't tell as much with the wool, or with the darker wool, because, well, it's darker. So we'll see how that all ends up. Okay, back in a moment. Alrighty, so it's gotten up to a simmer again, and I'm going to just go through and add in my vinegar. Oh wow, that's kind of interesting. The red is definitely taking up much faster, and this may end up giving me some interesting colors. Interesting. Do a small swirl, not much. And let me pull that off. I am definitely going to be sanding this dowel down again, because that was not supposed to happen. But okay. And now I'm going to reduce heat again and put my lid back on and let this simmer for between 10 and 15 minutes. And then we'll be back to see how it's looking. Alrighty, it's been about 10 minutes now, a little bit longer, and I'm just going to go ahead and put my glove on because that steam is really warm. And you can see right over here where we're definitely getting a difference in the uptake between the blue and the red dye that's in Wilton's Delphinium. Let's just see how we're doing. Oh, that's kind of a greenish color, so still has a little bit more that it can take in. So we'll give it another, call it 10 minutes more, and see how it looks at that point. And see you soon. Alrighty. So it's been a few more minutes, and let's just pull that open. And by the by, the camera angle changed because I ran out of battery on the camera. So it's now plugged in, and I don't especially want to have to be the person reaching around cords. So different camera angle. And now let's see how much uptake there is. You can tell that it's a little bit more. And when I look at it against the white background, it's pretty close to clear. So I'm going to call that good enough. And turn off the heat. And I'm going to let this cool down a little bit so that it's comfortable for me to handle, and then we'll take it on over and start rinsing out the excess dye and see what we can see about the final color. I'm kind of excited. It did break on me. Okay, so see you back in a few. Alrighty, so now we're going to go ahead and rinse out the wool, and I've already made sure that my water coming out of here is hot. You may notice that there's a little bit of steam still coming off of the wool. But that is perfectly fine as long as you're not shocking the hell out of it by like dumping in cold water. Then it shouldn't cause you any problems to start rinsing. And I'm not sure how well you can see, but it's rinsing out at least as clear as it was in the pot, which I want to do a little bit better, so we're going to keep at it for a little bit longer. And I like saturating stuff. And then, yeah, that dark is really dark, but I can see, I'm not sure how well you all can see. Let me pull this up. Actually, you can still handle the wool while it's wet. You just want to make sure that you're not, wringing it or twisting it, so you can squeeze it and let it bounce back. And this is a property particular to wool. You can do it a little bit with silk too, but if you try to do this with hemp, you can go through and actually really do some damage to the fiber that you want to spin, because it will compact and you'll have to go through and, well, hemp is not squishy. So when you push it down, it doesn't spring back, it doesn't come back the way that wool will. So, yeah. And yeah, the darker I can see, let me just go ahead and squeeze that out some more. See about bringing it up a little bit closer. I can see more of the pink in here. So it looks a little bit more pinkish, more purplish. And this was the first that went into the dye bath. So it'd be interesting to see if this took up more of the reds and then left more of the blues over here. But I think that's good to put on the drying rack. And, ooh, I like this. Got some nice pinks going on in there, bleeding into a beautiful purple. The blues are kind of a little bit more of a denim-y blue, which I think is pretty awesome. And I think I may have gotten more of this pink because of that point when I put in the vinegar and it kind of washed a little bit of the blue out of the area. That's a nice color there. So, squeeze. Yes, it's definitely coming out clear. So this, go through and do one more squeeze on it. Joyful. And, yep. And over to the drying rack. And finally, I just wanted to give you a quick look at what they're like as they're on the drying rack. They're still wet enough that they're dripping. So, just at the tips. Let me pull that a little bit more and see if I can get a little bit more sunlight on there. And a little bit of a zoom in. You can, yeah, it's very obvious that this took more pinks. Nice pinks up there. But the white also went through and took up a good amount of color as well. So I'm really liking this. A little bit light in that little corner there and very pink over here. So it'll be really fun to see how that actually spins up. And it'll probably be a little bit before that. And when this finishes drying, it'll be interesting to see. And to give you an idea of where we started, this is some more of the wool that I started with for this. It's Shetland. And this was unidentified white wool. So breed unknown. It started out looking more like that. So, yay! Alright, so the final products have dried for about a day, and I just wanted to go through and show you the difference. You can definitely see the colors much better on the white wool than on the dark gray, but you can kind of tell. I'm not sure how much the light I've got on there is bleaching it out, but you can see some of the purples going on. You can see a little bit of the blues, but for the most part it still looks predominantly gray. So I'm probably going to end up over dyeing this because I had some really good success with getting a deep purple with some RIT dyes and doing that. It came out really lovely. Like I said before, I think that the pink happened because I was pouring the vinegar on top of it before the blue had managed to get all taken up and kind of moved that dye away from it. Otherwise, I think this probably would have been a bit more on the purple side. But otherwise, I'd say this definitely turned out as a success. So, there we have it. Okay, take care, have a great one. See you later.